the irony about being a technology company is that my video I was going to show you isn't working. So, the good news is I've got a bit of extra waffle time now. So, what I want to start with really is, and I think there's been a theme this morning, that the time is now really for radical transformation for every business. So, every customer that I go out and see, all of our competitors, and in fact, actually, Fujitsu is going through a massive transformation themselves. Because if you don't, you won't stay relevant. And this isn't about growing necessarily, this is about being relevant in the world today. And technology is sometimes seen as the silver bullet. And, I love technology. I did a technical degree, spent years doing kind of software development. Technology is my passion, but technology is an enabler, right? No one comes to work to use technology, or very few people come to work to use technology. They come to work, right? And, I think from a kind of a workplace standpoint, I fully believe that if you're going for a transformation in your organisation, that transformation has to start in your workplace. It starts in your workforce, it starts with your people. So I'm just going to spend the next 20 minutes or so going through some of the kind of big business drivers that we see that are causing our customers to really have to change, talk through some of the sort of technology disruptors as well, but also where they bring some opportunity. And then I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts about things you can go back and start doing within your organisation straight away. Because, as I said, workplace is really the foundation, I think, for all transformation. So, when we look at business drivers, firstly, we all know about the new and competing business models. So, it was quite sad only last month with Thomas Cook, a company that's been around for over 100 years, going out of business. And then you've got the woes on the high street, no matter how much people are kind of bringing in new staff and sort of making small changes, big organisations, the likes of Debenhams, are kind of still struggling in the current market. And then you've got, in the financial services sector, companies like Monzo and Starling. And they really are kind of eating into that kind of FS market. And I think this morning they talked about RBS making a potential acquisition of Monzo as well, in order to kind of take advantage of that digital banking experience. And then you think about companies like Bosch. So for me, Bosch make washing machines, right? They make washing machines, they make dishwashers. I didn't realise that they've got a big mobility services business and they're focused on autonomous vehicles as well. And then Ford, and it was interesting seeing Ford as an experience company earlier on in the morning. But what Ford have done is they've said we can't just be a manufacturing company anymore, because the way that people are consuming kind of cars and the way that they want to have more of a as-a-service model has to change. So we've been doing a whole load of work with them around creating a more agile environment, agile delivery model to support that way. And then the other thing that came off this morning was about experience. And it says here experience is the differentiator, and actually, I don't think it's a differentiator, it's actually kind of what's expected. And if you don't get a great experience, we all know as consumers, then we just kind of move on and find somebody who will give it to us. And then from a trust point of view, we've done a lot of kind of surveys and focus on trust within Fujitsu. And what's quite worrying is the recent survey that we did, over 59% of the people that we surveyed said they don't actually believe what they're consuming on the internet from reputable companies. They can't always tell whether they're being spoofed or not. Right. On top of that, you've got people like British Airways, who had a massive data leakage not so long ago, huge fines. You've got companies, obviously, being fined around GDPR as well. If you lose trust, then people are not going to work with you. And then the race for talent, again, this has come up this morning. Every company now needs to be an experience company, a data company, and all of those skills that your competitors want as well. So you really need to make sure that your workplace is something that will attract the best talent. And then when we talk about a fluid workforce, this kind of means many things, really. So the gig economy, as we know in the UK, I think it's doubled now and doubled in size in the last 3 years. And what that's meaning is obviously more people coming in and out, needing to be onboarded, needed to be given the tools that they need to be effective. And then you've also got a load of kind of people within the kind of market, if you like, that we need to try and encourage to come back to work. So this might be parents that have given up work to raise their children. It might actually be people that are kind of semi-retiring but not ready to give up. Now, on top of that, we've got all the bots, and people are starting to embrace actually kind of like robotic process automation a lot more. So they've gone from sort of kind of fearing it, we've seen, to realising that it can augment. And it's a bit like artificial intelligence. I kind of like to call it augmented intelligence because I think it is about making your life easier as opposed to replacing anyone. And then from a wellbeing and engagement point of view, this is not only just makes business sense because then obviously people will be more productive, but it's the right thing to do. And again, with sustainability, not just a nice to have, really, really critical. We in Fujitsu have kind of aligned behind a number of the sustainable development goals because it's really, really important for us, not only from a market point of view, but actually because we want people to come and work for us that actually have shared beliefs, shared values. And I think that's really important. And then a multi-generational workforce, so up to 5 generations in the workplace now. And that brings with it a number of challenges, so different levels of maturity, different experiences that they expect. And it's really, really important that you can cater for that variation. So that's some of the kind of common business challenges that we're seeing. And then from a technology perspective, there were a number of kind of technology trends that I think are quite interesting. So the pivot to SaaS, so software as a service, I think it's been really interesting because for years, technology kind of ruled everything. So your IT department was like the nightclub bouncer, if you like. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I said IT is a bit like going to the doctors, right? You kind of put it off and try a number of things before you actually have to go and speak to the doctor, and then you go and speak to the doctor and you get what you need, right? But what SaaS did was it gave the power back to the business. So the people that actually understood what they're trying to achieve from an outcome perspective, they could just take out their credit card and buy that software. Right, so no longer were they kind of like beholden to IT. They actually could drive the technology that they wanted very, very rapidly, which also gave IT a big, big problem. And it's really important, actually, that IT now stop being the doctor and turn into the life coach, because unless they do that, they're not going to be relevant anymore. Right, and by that I mean, instead of kind of you going, because something's broken, wouldn't it be great if IT turned around to you and said, oh, I see, you're still sending 500 emails a day, but you've got Microsoft Teams, you've got all this collaboration stuff, this is the way you should be working, and that would help reduce your email. So, I think we'll see a movement to IT more in a coaching type way. Then the consumer experience, you've got a lot of products now, whether it's Citrix, VMware, ServiceNow, they're all talking about the same thing, which is giving that consumer experience into the workplace. So treating your employees in the same way that you treat your customers. They're the lifeblood of your organisation at the end of the day. And then 5G, data cheapness and so quick now means it does kind of open up the workplace. Work isn't somewhere you go to anymore in terms of you don't have to get in your car and go to the office. It's a kind of almost like a mental state, really. I'm now going to work because I've opened my laptop. I've gone into my virtual environment. And then from an interoperability point of view, which is something that I personally quite like, working for a systems integrator, the API economy has meant that it's really easy now to do best of breed. You don't have to go with one vendor. You can pick applications to meet your specific needs, and you can create a real seamless experience. And then AI. AI is all around us. I don't think I go a day now without being, interacting with AI in some way. So this morning, for example, Google knew that I was coming to this event. It suggested what time I had to leave my house. It suggested my mode of transport. Right? We see it all the time. My children, just have grown up with Alexa, right? So they just ask as a sort of natural state. And as I said earlier, the more that we're seeing it used, the more that people are starting to become a bit more accepting of it. And then data, the volumes of data that we're now generating is phenomenal. But I think that we're also starting to see an appetite for kind of using data in a different way. So I talk about kind of mutually beneficial data contracts. And what I mean by that is, take, for example, you're a young driver, you try and get insurance, and it costs like 5 times the price of your first car. Now, if you put your black box in there and allow it to be monitored, you can obviously bring your premiums down. And I started thinking about the whole experience thing as well. And I love skiing, and I'm obsessed with ski tracks. Anyone that goes skiing might know the app. I get to the end of the run, it shows me my speed, the gradient, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great actually if I could upload that and be told what skis would really suit my skiing style? So there's a load of opportunity about doing things with data in a sort of a joint way that benefits both the consumer and the company. IoT and wearables, again, we're seeing a lot more of that as just everyday life. In terms of the workplace, certainly, we're starting to explore a lot more about the work environment being personalised to that individual. So whether it's the desk coming up to the height that you set because it recognises you from your wearable. And I think we'll start to see a lot more about that. And then just lastly, from a cybercrime perspective, that we are obviously constantly under attack. But I think it's more than just like data loss that we have to worry about. We also have to worry about what is real. We have to worry about transparent AI as well. If you can't explain why that chatbot recommended that product to that customer, or you can't control it, or imagine if it turned around and started, swearing because it learnt some obscene words from the customers that it was dealing with, right? That could absolutely ruin your company. So lots of technology, heaps of money we've spent, $3.9 trillion so far we've spent on technology. And are we getting the benefit? I don't think so. And I don't see it in a lot of the customers that I'm seeing currently. And the reason for that is because what we're trying to do is we're trying to transform our organisation. Technology, remember, is just the enabler. You need to crowdsource the brilliance that you've got within your organisation. You need to give them the environment, enable them, right? For them to see what their strategic objectives are and decide how best they can contribute to them, which is quite a different way to most sort of hierarchical organisations work. So, what we did, just to further back this up, was we thought we'd go and ask. So it was about 600 people we asked across a number of sectors, really, how well they thought we were doing in actually addressing our kind of like productivity needs, our talent needs within the organisation. And what was quite interesting, I think, around this one in particular, is when you ask them about how the workplace helps them attract talent, about 50% positive, but it's 50% where it's not. But you want to attract and retain the best people, right? It's even worse when you look in manufacturing and transport. And do you really want anything but the best people in those type of sectors dealing with critical national infrastructure? I don't think so. So also, if you look at what is important in the workplace, and this was a great one when we got it back, because obviously we're a technology company, and ease of use of technology was like the lowest, right? What the people that we surveyed talked about was a good work-life balance was really, really important. A stimulating and healthy environment, everything we're talking about here, super important. And access to the right productivity tools coming after that. And then what we then went on to say is, okay, so how effective is your organisation in addressing those? And again, from a kind of a stats point of view, you can see there's a load of opportunity there, really, for making things better, right? 30%, about a third, not great. And then we then asked, how productive are you compared to 2 years ago? And we got this graph and we thought, brilliant, everyone's doing much, much better. They're much more productive. Obviously something is working. And then we asked them, well, how much more are you working? And then they showed us that they're actually working more. And we talk about stress, and we talk about mental health, and we talk about wanting to make sure you get a good work-life balance, but you're working more hours. You know, that's not a good place to be. And then what was quite worrying about this stat was only about a third of people that we surveyed said that they were confident that their own employer could protect their corporate data, right? Which was shocking, I thought. And that means, you know, these people are consumers as well, right? So if they worry about how their company protects data, they're probably also going to be worried about how other companies are doing that as well. We then also asked them about the productivity and whether you were impacted at all. You know, up to 5 times a week people were impacted by an outage, and whether that's like your email down or, you know, your SharePoint down. And if you think about it, it's estimated around 20% of your time is spent on non-value add tasks as well. You've basically lost like Friday every week. And that's massively frustrating, especially when things like your presentation don't work just before you have a presentation. And then this last stat was around the fact that, you know, inclusive workforces, it's not just a tick box, it's not just a legal activity. Again, we want diverse thinking, and diverse thinking means we need to cater for everybody's needs, and only a fifth of what people we surveyed think their employees can do that. And that's, you know, that's not great for anyone. So, I've talked through a few of the kind of challenges, I've talked through and showed you some stats, and you know, as I said to you, I think that your business transformation has to come from the workplace. So this is all about making your people more enabled, more effective and efficient. So I'm going to share with you some things that I think would really help. So, the use of intelligent automation and insight. So, we talked about 20% of your time spent on non-value add tasks, right? Wouldn't it be great if you can get rid of that 20% of the time, or get it back, sorry, the 20% of the time? So this is things like, you know, expenses reports, searching for files. I mean, I would love it before my business review if it got pushed to me because my calendar could see that I was going to my business review with my boss, found the file, sent it to me, rather than scrambling around trying to find things. And then last week, I was with the Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers, and they're all our, you know, super clever technical people. And I actually asked them the question, you know, what would make your daily life better? And they all said, oh, good, can you just automate things like the holiday system? And wouldn't it be great if the fact that I always just approve purchase orders under 100 quid anyway, right? So just automate that. I don't need to do that, but it should be able to learn from my behaviour, because somebody else might be a bit more cautious, that's what I do. Then, creating the consumer experience in-house. So, as I said, there's a number of vendors that can do that, but ultimately attracting and retaining talent from day one, pre-day one actually, the first time they interact with your company is really, really essential. And we used to talk a lot about kind of persona, particularly in the workplace, and we've kind of gone the next level down really from personas. So we use something called colleague journey mapping and colleague empathetic design. And the approach to that is all about effectively understanding what your journey to the outcome you're trying to achieve, a bit like a persona. But then we start to explore the kind of emotional type responses that happen at certain pain points. Because you really need to start focusing on those kind of like moments that matter, if you like. So that could be things like on your first day at work, you know, that's quite a stressful time for anybody. And that's a customer journey, a colleague journey that you should really, really focus on, making it excellent. So from a prioritisation point of view, I would be focusing around that. And we use something called human experience design, actually, which is very much based on design thinking to help us in mapping through. Because obviously getting to the more kind of unconscious needs and emotional responses is a little bit harder than just sitting down and, you know, having a chat or observing. And then secure boundary-less workplace. So we talk about working, you know, any time and on any device. You know, the desktop, as it currently stands is kind of dead. Desktops are all kind of virtual now. But if you think about the gig economy, if you're working kind of freelance, you might work for many companies. So you need to be able to log on to your kind of company A, a workplace environment, and you need to be also log on to a separate one. And you need to ensure that there's no kind of bleeding of data between those, because that's going to cost you your role if you do that. And we're seeing a real rise there, and all the technologies that support that very much are starting also to bring in some intelligent automations. So they're taking the kind of desktop into the next level up really, and starting to say, okay, I'm not just going to give you the desktops that you need. I'm going to also give you the kind of the tasks. I'm going to prioritize tasks that you should look at. And what that's also about is that, day one, your people are coming in and be super productive. So, they're not spending weeks getting up and running, right? And particularly, again, if you're paying freelance people, you want them to be efficient from day one. And my favorite one, the agile and empowered organization. So, you can't just kind of say, we're agile, you're empowered. That's my favorite one. You're empowered. Off you go and sort everything. This is all about creating the right framework, really, for people to operating. So coming back to your strategic transformation, right? That's all about you maybe growing in a certain region. It's about things like diversifying your portfolio, right? You've got brilliant people in your organisation. Why do we wait? Or why do we try and direct them on what to do? Why aren't we actually giving them the right environment for them to figure out how to actually get there? And I was thinking about this, so, and again, it aligns with some of the comments this morning. We bring our children up to broadcast to the world. They can change anything they want to, right? They can be an entrepreneur from their bedroom. And then we bring them into the organisation and we completely crush them with hierarchy and bureaucracy. And they kind of go, oh, what? We can't just do this. I have to ask 10 layers of approval, right? That's just not going to work. So within my own organisation, and Fujitsu is a massive 160,000 people, something like that, organisation, and obviously decades of ways of working. And we brought in an objective and key results approach to running our business. And what that does is gives you a framework. This is what we're trying to achieve as a business, and it hands it over to the teams and says, look, you figure out what you as a team need to do to achieve this. But those strategic OKRs act as guardrails. So there's metrics there that people are pushing towards, but they're completely empowered to operate how they wish to. And we've actually, further looked at how we further tie in incentives as well around that. And then we also then use a technique called results chain, which is really, really good within your business for being able to show all of those strategic objectives. So that could be decreasing property costs, for example. And then you can map back all of the micro objectives that then flow through to that overall strategic objective. And then you can share that with the team so everybody can see how their bit contributes to that, and you can also start to put metrics against that in terms of return on investment. And then lastly, continual investment in people. So technology is moving faster than we can actually keep up, really. So, we have to try and keep up as much as possible through training, but also through experiential learning. So this could be making sure, again, in an agile world, working in a multidisciplined team, right? So you become a T-shaped type person, right? You can take on new areas of functionality. But it's also about looking at placements, job rotations. Things like DevOps is really good actually for rotating people around as well. And then from a well-being perspective, well-being is absolutely key because all this transformation, all this change, and I did it first with my team of consultants, and I thought consultants are so resilient when it comes to change. And they were pretty resilient, but there was still, it was a lot more emotionally difficult actually, I think, going through these changes than I realised. But there are certain little hacks I think you can do also from a well-being perspective. So, for example, in my signature, I have something that says, if I'm sending this out of hours, I don't expect you to respond just because I work a different work-life pattern to meet my family life doesn't mean that you have to respond to me because I'm your boss. You know, we talk about digital snacking as well, and it really annoys me when people go and get a cup of coffee and they're like this, and then they get in the lift and they're like this. And I did it myself the other day. I literally got in the lift. It's like, I've got to check my email, but I've just checked it, like literally at my desk. That is not good, and always-on culture is not good. So we need to role model those behaviours, right? And we need to make sure that when we're planning our workday, we're putting in free time, thinking time. So I've shared some of my insights, really, as a technology company, and I'm very much talking about people are key. That shared understanding of the strategic objectives, empowering your people to figure out how to get there, enabling them with technology is the way that you'll really drive your transformation. Thank you.
We were looking at the support for our workers and then the actual amount of time we spent, so you can see that people are actually working more. Did you go into that a little bit deeper?
No, we didn't actually, but we have just commissioned a new survey to try and do sort of a next level down on that, because it would be interesting to see. I mean, as I said, there's some correlation with the fact that the productivity tools aren't giving them what they need, and also the fact that you've got a lot of outages. You know, as I said, we estimate around 20% of time is just non-value add, which, say, get Friday back.
Well, it would be interesting also to see from a technological perspective, once it's identified what's actually happening, what are people doing on those off hours, what technological advancements can you make.
Yeah, and no, it would be interesting. And I say we see, and we've done it kind of ourselves actually a little bit. We take advantage of new technologies, and all of the vendors have a silver bullet to fixing everything, and we get it implemented and it's really smooth. And then if there's not enough focus on the kind of like business change, the adoption, the ways of working, as I said, something like Teams or Slack or any of the collaboration tools, if you don't change how you work, it's just kind of another place to go. And the trouble is, I've had it before in the past where you're like, I don't know which platform to go to. There's just so many of them.
Do you have any examples of how to put all of that together and to actually put an investment available for it? Because it strikes me that it's very difficult to know how you actually quantify something, because traditional, though most I would imagine a lot of companies are, they still want to know if I put X in, I'm going to get Y out. This has been a single investment based around retention of staff and overall productivity, or would you see it as a spread out into the areas like technology and workplace and HR?
Yeah, so something like maybe retention of staff would be an enabler for your overall kind of like strategy, if you like. So maybe your strategy would be to diversify into a new market, right? Now, that's kind of, say, your strategic objective. So in our kind of results chain approach, it's for that reason, actually. So you start over here, what you're trying to achieve. And then, as I say, working backwards, some of those objectives might be, I don't know, bringing in a new kind of office workspace. It might be bringing in flexible working. And then you're kind of you have a series of enablers, which would be technology, people, process and tools ultimately. And what we started to do is, through the chain, it almost acts like a critical path type approach. You're able to put a kind of a estimated ROI. So you can start to see, okay, if I do this, that should give me that benefit, and then it all sort of flows forward, if you like, through to that strategic objective. And we're using it a lot now with a lot of customers for that reason, because it is quite a hard sell, and there are still people that think kind of the culture and people things is a bit fluffy. So, showing it like that is really important. Okay, thank you. Thanks.